Good evening, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar where we'll be discussing how to break into the US tech startup ecosystem with CU Denver. We have a wonderful panel joining us today to help you learn more about an MS in Entrepreneurship, along with how to make it a dual degree with an MSIS. So I'll quickly introduce the panel that we have here today. We are joined by Professor Madhavan, who's the Academic and Executive Director of the Jake Japp Center for Entrepreneurship. Good morning, Professor. How are you doing today? Very happy to have you here.
Doing very well. Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. We are also joined by Brian Brinkman, who's the Recruiting and Marketing Program Manager. Good morning, Brian. Hope you're doing well as well.
Good morning. I'm doing fantastic. Very excited here today.
Wonderful. And then we're also joined by Stella Zhang, who's an international student for MS Entrepreneurship. Hi, Stella. Very excited to have you today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Wonderful. So I think we are, we've done our round of introductions, and I am, of course, Shireen. I am representing GradRight, and I'll be the one who'll sort of take everybody here through the session today. And I think we can just straight away dive into it. And I think my first question would be for you, Professor Madhavan. And I think this would be potentially a question that would be on any student's mind. I think very important to understand what an MS in Entrepreneurship really means and what it really entails. I think that would be a very, very important question to start.
Well, that's a very good question. And I think if I were to summarize the purpose of the degree in one sentence, I would say the purpose of the degree is to cultivate an entrepreneurial mindset. And an entrepreneurial, innovative mindset is something that you not only need if you're starting your next unicorn, but you also need if you want to get a job with one of the great entrepreneurial companies that exist today. All the FANG stocks, all Google, Amazon, Meta, all of them are very entrepreneurial companies. And one of the reasons we actually created this degree was we actually went to the community, and Denver is a hugely entrepreneurial ecosystem with a lot of tech startups. So we actually went to these companies and found out exactly what they need. And they told us they need somebody who could actually think out of the box, think sharply, have an entrepreneurial mindset, actually go through the process of writing a business plan, even if they don't ever start their own business, but they come and join an entrepreneurial business, just because they are able to think holistically about all aspects of business and see opportunities. So that's what that degree is about.
I think it's absolutely so interesting that you brought this up, and it was actually my second question about, what kind of companies would hire someone with this educational background. And I think you really sort of clarified for us that it's not necessarily for someone who just wants to start their own business, but could potentially also be very, very important for someone who just wants to develop a certain mindset to be able to work with these sort of companies. And I think thank you so much for telling us about that a little bit. I think my question to you again would be, if you could, I really want to talk a little bit about what this entrepreneurial mindset really means. I think that would also be very, very helpful to sort of understand that what is it that they're really looking to develop in order to then get hired in certain companies.
Yeah, that's another very good question. I mean, two phenomenal questions to begin with. So you're right that this lingo, entrepreneurial mindset, you hear it a lot. And then when you ask people to actually define it, what does it mean? And different people have different versions of what it really means. So quite simply, there are in Colorado and in most of the US, 75% of jobs are created by small to mid-sized businesses. So it's a heavily entrepreneurial culture even now. And even if you go to a big company like Google, my daughter works for Google, so I know this quite well. They are all about coming up with new ideas, thinking holistically about new ideas. In fact, Google considers itself to be 101 startups, even though it's a big company and it's a corporate giant. So I think the entrepreneurial mindset is to be, number one, able to think holistically about all aspects of business. Small business is very different from large businesses. And remember, we have an MBA program, which is excellent as well. But the MBA program is largely caters to huge businesses, Procter & Gamble, where you have an unlimited advertising budget. And that is not the reality with a lot of tech startups, with a lot of FANG startups. When they started, they had very little, and then they grew tremendously. So I think the ability to conserve resources and not waste them, the ability to think sharply about where the greatest levels of efficiency are attained, and to be able to constantly be aware of how different aspects of businesses come together. In other words, if you start your own business, you got to think of all aspects of business, right? I mean, you got to be worried about advertising. You got to know operations. You got to know accounting and finance, and you got to know how they come together. And of course, even if you don't do them yourself, you know how it works and how it seamlessly fits with all aspects of business. And I think that's the key to the entrepreneurial mindset, to be able to sharply think about all aspects of business and seize opportunities.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I think that cleared a lot of it in my head as well. So I'm sure the students who've joined us today have really benefited from you really sort of spelling it out for us. And what does it really mean? It's not just some ambiguous term that we use, but it actually defines a lot of characteristics that you sort of end up building. Stella, I'm going to pull you in here a little bit. And, since Professor Madhavan touched upon this a little bit about the kind of entrepreneurial mindset one can develop with this program, would love to hear from you as someone, who's an international student pursuing this program right now. What really made you sort of decide to pursue this program?
Yeah, first, CU Denver is a very famous university with a good reputation. The students, they always be very competitive in the job market. Another reason is there are a lot of, top-level entrepreneurs in this program. We can learn from them about how they start their own business, how they overcome the obstacles, and which lessons they learned. Also, they have very unique personalities. It's pretty fun to have them in our class. Except their professional knowledge, their entrepreneurial spirit, such as the resilience and optimism, this spirit can not only help us in study or career, but also can help us in our life.
Right. And thank you so much for sharing that with us. I just want to quickly ask you, you've been in the program for some time now. Do you want to share just like a quick update of how it's going for you? Was it what you thought it would be? Have there been some things that you didn't really know about? Just like a quick nugget of how it's been so far would be great to know.
Yeah, so far so good. Yeah, first a few days were very fun and informative. We have already met 2 founders. It's a pretty cool experience because they work in different industry and with different business. So it's very inspiring and eye-opening.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Professor Madhavan, on that note, I think, Stella touched upon it a little bit about really getting that industry experience also while, being part of the program. Just if you could shed some light on the importance of really getting that holistic sort of education and, like on-ground experience while you're sort of pursuing this program.
So, I'm going to answer that sort of, take one step back. I'm a professor of marketing. I did my PhD in marketing. I joined CU Denver in 1996 as a marketing professor. And I've been, I went through the ranks, and now I'm a senior professor of marketing and entrepreneurship. So I've seen academic education, the traditional academic education. And the traditional academic education is very simple. You go to the class, you attend lectures, you go home, you study, attend more classes until you graduate, and then hope you can get a job. And that's got a couple, in my view, that's not contemporary education. That's not what education should be. So when we designed the program, and when I first came up with a vision of the program, and then I talked to my wonderful team, and then we talked to business school leaders, then we went out in the community and talked to business leaders. We found that their expectation of students is very different from that traditional, education. And they actually, so students need to actually do things. They need to get inspiration from the real leaders. They need to actually practice, get their feet wet, make mistakes. And what better place to make mistakes than in an academic setting, in a university setting where the consequences of making a mistake are relatively minor. The other thing which a lot of people forget is the great leaders in Silicon Valley didn't get there alone. They got there because they made very strong networks. They formed really strong bonds and networks with great individuals while they were in college. So for us, having that networking aspect of the business, and not just networking with anybody, networking, as Stella said, with founders, with leaders, with people who actually built shockingly successful businesses. In fact, my co-teacher, and Stella is in my class, this term, and my co-teacher is a gentleman by the name of Joel Apple. He's the guy who invented OxyClean Orange Glow. And I know that students in India are not familiar with that brand, but anyone in the US you ask, everybody knows what they are. And he's probably a billionaire. He has actually got an exit for $400 million with OxyClean and Orange Glow. And he's founded about 10 more businesses since then. So that is the level of instruction that Stella is getting from these people who've actually done it and made mistakes. So I think that aspect of education is what this program really captures. And then the other aspect of education that it captures is, and this was really important to me, when I did my MBA, I was forced to take classes where I knew the topic as much as the professor did. Maybe not quite as much, but I thought I did. Okay, I thought I know all this stuff. Okay, so the question is, why do we force people to take classes on topics that they're already familiar with? For instance, Stella, knows marketing. She did a marketing degree, so maybe we should channel her into other classes, operations, accounting, finance. And so on, where it'll balance out her existing educational foundation. No point in her taking marketing 101 because she already knows that, and she probably can teach the class. So our program is fully customizable. It's different for every student based on what their needs are, which is very unique. There are no prerequisites, and it's very experiential. Guest speakers come to class. Students participate in various events, like our competition, like we have our own venture fund, and they get to meet all these people in the process, which leads to a very, very phenomenal education. Now, many of these things are things which they don't have to do. So if they want to go to class and never attend any event or network, they can do that. But what's the point? I mean, they're here to do the best for themselves. So sorry for the long answer, but
No, I think it's such a phenomenal way of explaining it because what would any of us just do to be able to get a customizable program, right? Because I think all through our lives, we've felt that whether it's in school or at, undergraduate university, where you're just wondering why you're studying half the things you're studying. And the fact that you can do this here, I think it's wonderful. And you're really sort of playing to someone's strengths, in that sense, and really teaching them what is of value and not really just forcing people to take those courses. Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for taking us through that. On that note, just I want to touch upon this a little bit because this is something also that is important to a lot of Indian students coming to do their masters to the US. Is that the additional MSIS that you can pursue with entrepreneurship and make it a dual degree and, in that sense, also make it a STEM designated program. I would love for you to just shed some light on that a little bit, talk about that a little bit and just give us some of the advantages of what that would really mean for someone coming from India.
Okay, so I can touch on that and then I'll hand it over to Brian and he can fill in some details.
Wonderful.
But I think the first question is why did we do this dual degree, and why does it fit? What's the synergy when you mix entrepreneurship with information systems and technology? Firstly, one of the key points of the entrepreneurship MS program, is the fact that, and this is something I felt very strongly about. That we charge 3 times the tuition for international students as opposed to resident students. So students from Colorado pay a lot less than international students from India. That I felt should change, and that everyone should pay the same amount of money. So one of the things which Brian can mention also is that our center is funded. So we have lots of private entrepreneurs giving us money for scholarship and endowing the center. So we use those private funds to essentially discount tuition for all international students and be able to give them, resident tuition rates, which is much cheaper. So the entrepreneurship program is extremely affordable. Then the entrepreneurship program is also experiential. You're getting to meet all these tech leaders in Denver. So you get to actually network with them. Now, the information systems program is a traditional program. You don't get that discount in tuition because they don't have the scholarships and so on. But you get the solid academic fundamentals in information systems. And as you mentioned, Shireen, it's STEM approved. So when students do both the degrees, they get both the networking and the academic fundamentals in technology. But they do so because half the classes they take would be at a much lower tuition. And the other half, which is information system, will be at the regular tuition. They can get 2 degrees. They get 2 different MS degrees. So a dual degree is actually 2 separate degrees. For the price of one, because the total cost is the cost of what it would take to just do an MSIS degree. Now that I mentioned that, I'll just hand it over to Brian, and he can talk about some details about it.
Absolutely wonderful. We'd love to hear from
Thanks,
Brian.
Sandeep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much for joining us today and for your interest in the MS Entrepreneurship program, and as well as the Entrepreneurship IES program. As we've been discussing here, a couple of the key factors of the entrepreneurship program do carry over to the dual degree, which is the experiential side. That is a massive component of the program, getting students out into the world here, getting students out into the Denver entrepreneurial community, doing tours, working in internships, and really giving them opportunities to really kind of roll up their sleeves and put themselves to work, make mistakes without the massive risk of going and doing this on your own, investing a ton of capital in terms of a business that you may not be in position to start up, having that sort of guide and working with students. But with the IS standpoint, you have the STEM component, you have the tech aspect that gives you even more of a robust education. In terms of the breakdown of those 2 programs, so our MS Entrepreneurship program is 30 credits. Students can complete that within three semesters if they so choose. Students can also spread that out over a 5-year window in terms of their overall academic studies. So there's a lot of flexibility. As MP mentioned, we do not have prerequisites for our courses, so students are able to pick and choose classes that work for them, both in terms of what they want to learn about right now, what they want to focus on right now, as well as where are their lingering skill gaps versus where there are already knowledge centers. Within the MSIS and entrepreneurship dual degree, you're talking a 42 credit program. So it's a little bit longer than the entrepreneurship master's degree as is, but you're taking where the MS Entrepreneurship program is 10 classes, leading to 30 total credits. You're now taking 7 classes from entrepreneurship as well as 7 classes from information systems. This gets us to the 42 credit hours. The information system side of things is a little bit more structured as we would anticipate here at the business school. There are 6 required courses. A few of those we encourage students to take specific classes prior to taking others. There's a little bit more of a learning gap, if you will, as you're working through that subject matter. And then there's an elective component for your 7th course. You combine that with the entrepreneurship side. All of our classes are open to students, including internships. You pick and choose what classes work for you. In terms of your overall advising and how that looks, were you to apply to the dual degree program, you would still work with me exclusively on the entrepreneurship side. The nice thing about working within the entrepreneurship department, you have a dedicated, essentially one-to-one advisor. I'm available for all students, both from the onboarding and admissions aspect of the program, as well as from the advising side. For the information systems portion of your program, you would work with one of the advisors in the larger business graduate school. So you would have that balance in terms of access for degree planning, for any sort of challenges that you're having, feedback that you have for the program, questions, any sort of contact information from a professor's standpoint, planning out your mentorship opportunities, planning out internships. You'd have a direct window to me. And then should there be any issues that arise on the information system side of your overall program, again, you have an advisor who you can reach to, and I can connect you with the right people. So you're putting yourself in a position where you're getting that STEM component, you're getting that entrepreneurial component, whether it be starting up a business, whether it be simply going after that mindset shift in terms of how do I attack a role, how do I attack a department within an organization as an entrepreneur would, but you're also getting the full support that full entrepreneurship students would get.
Great, wonderful. Thank you so much for taking us through that entire process, Brian. I think it's become fairly clear, about how this would sort of play out for a student. I think on that note, a lot of students would also like to know what sort of students could potentially apply for this program, right? Is there a criteria? Is there a certain type of program that they should have pursued earlier to be able to do this? If you could just let us know about that as well.
Absolutely. Specifically speaking, and I'll throw this to MP here in a second. Specifically speaking on the entrepreneurship side, one of the beauties of this program is both in the academic standpoint of completing the program, but also in the application standpoint, is we're looking for a wide variety of students. I've had the pleasure of speaking with all of our students who have gone through the application process, have been admitted, have enrolled, have registered for classes, and what I see is a great diversity, which is something that is endlessly sought right now in the university setting. We are seeing students who are very traditionally going through their bachelor's degree, coming out of their bachelor's degree, have been informed, go after the MBA, that's the next step for you, and are now looking at a different opportunity where they say, can I have a little bit more autonomy and control over my education? Can I have a little bit more a few more options presented to me, and a bit more flexibility and adaptability within a program? And so they're seeing open-ended opportunities for themselves coming out of a bachelor's degree into a master's degree setting. Conversely, we're seeing international students, students like Stella, students like a number of other students in our program who want to remain in the United States, who want to have direct access to the job market, who want to have interactions and networking opportunities with professionals that give them the chance that once they graduate, they don't simply just have an additional degree, but they already have a network in place that can speed them along to their career, ideally here in the US, or going back home to their home country and bringing the skills that they have with them. Finally, we're seeing a number of students who are coming from this kind of midway crossroads point in their career. When we designed this program, we were designing it during what we call the Great Resignation period here in the United States. Post-COVID, a number of professionals in their mid-30s to their mid-50s were reconsidering, what does my career mean at this point in time? Who am I? What is it that I want to do? I have these skills. Those skills were upended in some way, shape, or form due to the pandemic, due to remote work. What do I do now? And the entrepreneurship master's degree program offers them that opportunity to channel those skills towards a small business enterprise, towards restructuring their skill set, towards developing a larger network. When you add in the information systems side of that, we're looking at students who have, more of a tech background, who have more, ideas based around how do I combine small businesses with tech. So there will be potentially additional skill sets that would be asked upon from students in that sort of standpoint. But the beauty of combining that with the entrepreneurship side is the entrepreneurship side is quite open to the students that we want to bring into the program. And we can provide them with tech skills while also introducing them to the business world. I'll throw it over to NP for a bit more context here.
I think that's great that you've spoken about this a little bit, because it's important for prospective students to know this, right? Because they need to know that there is no sort of set criteria for them to be able to apply for this course. I'm so sorry, Professor Madhavan, you were saying.
So I think one of the points that I'm just going to reinforce what Brian just mentioned is when I did my MBA here in the US, all the students looked sort of like me. They were young. They knew just about as much as I did. I probably knew a little more than them because I had a lot of international experience. So I learned very little from my colleagues in the program. So one of the things which is unique about entrepreneurship is the fact that students are all very different. And that is something we encourage. So you got students from all over the world coming because our tuition rates for international students are very low. What you can expect to happen is that you'll find students from all over the world. So that would be one of the huge learning points. I learned so much from students from other countries and how they did things. The other thing that Brian mentioned is that we also have a lot of truly great leaders who were working. I was just speaking to a gentleman who was interested in our program, and he was the chief financial officer of a company, McDonald's, regional, chief financial officer. And he resigned during the Great Resignation. A lot of people left. They said, "I'm done with working." And now he wants to start his own business. So we have these great leaders who are actually, phenomenally good mentors themselves, who are taking the program along with other students. And imagine what a great learning opportunity that would be for me if I was doing my MS in Entrepreneurship and I had former chief financial officers doing the program with me. I'd like to hang out with them and learn as much as possible. And they have networks themselves. So imagine the networking opportunity through them. But the other really, really important thing about our program, which I don't think we covered so far, is that we have an extensive list of mentors. So we have a mentorship council, a mentor council, and we have literally 25 or 30 top-notch mentors. And we keep getting more mentors interested in participating in our center. And the mentors don't necessarily have to be, CEOs of entrepreneurial companies. They are sometimes CEOs of huge companies. And these CEOs of huge companies realize that they need the entrepreneurial mindset even in a large company. So, in fact, the other day I was having dinner with a gentleman who was a chief marketing officer of Coors. And then before that, he worked at Procter & Gamble. He was the chief marketing officer at Procter & Gamble and Kellogg's, which are all breakfast cereal companies. And so he said that he would love to be a mentor because he knows more than anyone else how important that entrepreneurial mindset is, even in the large company environment. So the mentor council and the list of mentors is also a game changer because that's something students don't get in traditional programs. And all they have to do is come and talk to Brian, come and talk to me, and we will connect them with the most appropriate mentor for them, depending on what their background is, what they're interested in. In fact, Stella, I was thinking of connecting you with Bill Weintraub, the CMO of Coors. Since you have a marketing background, so I'm gonna talk to you about that.
Yeah, I think what I can really tell is that the learning is really happening from all angles, right? You're learning from the people you're studying with. You have your mentors, of course, you have your faculty, and I think that is what like a truly great experience really can be. I think this would be a great time for me to request the audience once again to start sending in their questions. If they have any questions so far for any one of you, we'd love to take that up. So please don't hesitate, send your questions for sure. Stella, I think we've heard a lot about the program and the kind of exposure one can really get. I think I would love to sort of hear from you about the student life at the university and, in Denver in general. What's it like, especially being an international student? This is a concern that a lot of students have. Okay, what's it going to be like? Am I going to get my food sorted? Is this going to be okay? Is that going to be okay? So would love to hear a little bit about general student life over there.
Yeah, definitely. As an international student, we're so easy to feel lonely because, it's very hard to find some friends or some community you feel belongs to. But the campus life is way more colorful than I thought. I already have a sense of belonging. There are so many different clubs and activities. No matter what you're interested in, you can easily find a group of students with the same interest. Also, the gym is pretty big. They have 2 floors and so much big equipment you can use. And we have a huge climbing wall. So every time when you need to do workouts, when you want to, release your stress, you can go there. And also the health insurance for international students is so good. I went there before and they almost can fix all the problems on campus. So you just focus on your study, no need to worry about anything else.
That's wonderful. That's very reassuring, I'm sure, for a lot of students to hear that. Okay, so I think, Professor Madhavan, I'm going to come back to you a little bit. So would love to hear a little bit about the JJAB Center, what it really entails, what does it really do? If you could just take us through that as well.
Okay, I'm happy to do that. So the JJAB Center was formed 1996. It was one of the first university centers in entrepreneurship. Certainly one of the first west of the Mississippi. And the purpose of the center was sort of what we already have discussed. It was dedicated to the notion that entrepreneurship cannot solely be taught in the classroom, and that students need support. And the center was built specifically to provide that support. And so the center itself offers many, many experiential programs and events. We have several mentoring sessions. We also have networking sessions. In fact, we just had one the other day, a couple of days ago. But then I think more importantly, we have events which include one of our signature events, which is called the Climb. It is like Shark Tank. I don't know if students are familiar with that, but it's a competition. It's a pitch competition where we give out real money. So the winner gets a prize of $10,000, but they also get, you have all the venture capitalists, you have all the networks that you make immediately by virtue of participating and winning. And then you get feedback. And that's something which is a phenomenal experience, just participating in the competition. Because again, later when the students go and get a job and they're interviewing, the first thing the employer is going to say, oh, you participated in the competition? What was your idea? How did that go? What did you learn from that? So that's just a phenomenal experience. We also have our own venture fund. So we invest in businesses, including our own students' businesses, and we invest real money. I mean, we typically invest $50,000, which is a great startup seed funding for most of our students' businesses that are very early stage, and it worked really well. But the venture fund is run by students. So students can also participate in the venture fund and learn the process of actually venture capital investing, and see from the other side. So it's really, again, I wish I had that when I was a student, because if I was going to go and pitch my idea, I have no idea, I have no clue what the people listening to me are really thinking, right? So if I was part of that group that was actually making decisions on whom to give money to, I would be able to sort of tailor my pitch to what I know they're looking for, right? So it's just a phenomenal experience. And again, the people leading this fund are some of the greatest venture capitalists in Denver. So it's really somebody who's phenomenally famous. And for example, the guy leading the fund right now, his name is Doug Barnett. He was a founder of a huge VC company called Crestone Capital. And Crestone Capital invests money, they take money from ultra high net worth wealthy people and invest it, but they don't take money from you unless you invest a minimum of $50 million. If you can't invest that much, they don't want you. So it's like a phenomenal company, and he founded it, and he's the guy leading our student fund. So you get all these hands-on opportunities. We also have speaker events. We have events that we do with the community, with schools, and students can participate in all of those and just get the variety of experiences that's truly phenomenal. And coming back to a point, the academic part of the education should be a small part of the education. This experiential part of the education to actually be at least equivalent, if not more, than the academic part, for it to be a truly holistic educational experience. And I think that's what students get with the entrepreneurship program.
Wonderful. I think you've really painted a great picture of, how much experience and how much exposure one can really get if they truly want to sort of derive the most out of this program. So I really appreciate it that you've sort of taken us through that. So Brian, I'm going to just pull you in here, and, Professor Madhavan and Stella have both, and yourself as well, have really told us about the wonderful, lucrative sort of opportunities a student can get if they enroll for the program. If you could just help us understand a little bit, what would the process look like if somebody wants to sort of apply for the program and really be a part of it?
Sure. So the process typically, and the nice thing again about our program with the way we're set up from a recruiting and advising standpoint, I'll have one-to-one conversations with myself throughout it. Typically, it begins with a phone call or a Zoom call with a student just to understand your background, determine overall initial qualification, discuss the rationale for why you want to do this program, what your long-term goals are. I'll talk with a student for about 20 to 30 minutes just to get a sense of where they're at, where they're wanting to go. Within that conversation, I'll run through our application just to ensure that students are aware of that, and then send over any relevant links and information that a student needs to better understand if this is the right program for them. Should a student begin an application and begin working through that process, I'll be again with them through that whole process. Our application for the entrepreneurship program specifically is very straightforward, and we try to make this as seamless of a process as we can for students. This is another aspect, as MP spoke about, he had a great realization of why are we forcing students to take classes that they don't necessarily need to take just for the sake of our degree. We had a similar realization when it came to the application. Why are we asking students to submit so many exam results, recommendations, all of these different aspects, when ultimately, what do we need to know that a student is qualified for this program? It's an essay to tell us overall, why do you want to do this? What are your large scale goals? It's transcripts from your undergraduate institutions so that we can ensure from an academic standpoint, you'll be able to handle the rigor of a master's degree program. And then for international students, it's proof of English language proficiency so that we can ensure that while you're on the ground here in the United States, both from an academic standpoint and a lifestyle standpoint, you're not going to be left behind in any sort of manner. There's not going to be a significant gap there from a communication standpoint. And then a resume. We do not require currently work experience for this MS Entrepreneurship program. However, the resume gives us a sense of club experience. What have you done from a part-time work experience standpoint? What are your larger skill set? What are your larger traits? We do find that just in this, current economic, climate, students do tend to work while they're in university. So getting a sense of consistent work experience is helpful for us. Again, no GRE, no GMAT for students are required. At this point in time, no recommendations are required. These are optional aspects of the application should we require them. Later on, should we need a little bit more information about a student, but those are not a specific aspect. So I'll work with students typically for students like the population we're speaking with here coming from India, the vast majority of the application can be completed within as little as an afternoon. We do find that because of the added components of the English language proficiency exam and submitting transcripts through international credential evaluations and having those submitted to CU Denver, that process can take a couple of weeks. Again, I'll work with you through that. I will be there to follow up and keep you, on track from an application standpoint. Once everything is in and we have completed your application, it's a fairly straightforward review process. It typically takes 5 to 10 business days for us to get a decision back to you. Should you be admitted to the program, we then work with you to introduce you to our International Student Success Department to work on visa application. I recommend all students who are looking to apply from an international side to be starting this process 6 to 7 months, 5, 6, 7 months before the program begins to give them ample time for the visa processing. That is typically the longest process to come to the United States. But again, I'll be in touch with you. You'll have communications from the International Student Success Department, and we'll work with you ahead of your arrival, both from a visa application standpoint, as well as you and I will sit down and map out what your degree looks like. So if you decide to do the MS Entrepreneurship program, we'll take you through those 30 credits, really envision where do you want to start from an education and academic standpoint? When do we want to incorporate internships? What does this look like from an overall narrative arc of your studies so that when you complete the program after a few semesters, you feel as though you're ready to go out and work in the world. All of that, just to be very, very clear, is adaptable and program. As I told Stella, we'll make your degree plan as we make it today. This is not set in stone. This is a live document. If you get into classes and you realize, you know what, I've learned enough about this subject matter, let's switch gears and let's talk about something else. If there's a different course that you want to bring into your overall studies, we'll work to figure out how to make that happen. So there's a lot of flexibility and a lot of back and forth communication through that process. Just one last quick note, the information system side of this is handled through our overall business school admissions department, as well as our business school advising department. I'll be able to be, a liaison throughout that process, but you'll work with them for that aspect of the overall application and degree planning.
Thank you so much, Brian. I think, again, very reassuring to hear that you will be, available for the students through the entire process to really sort of take them through it. Okay, so I'm just going to take up a couple of questions that we've gotten. Stella, the first one I'm going to direct at you because it is specifically for you. Someone wants to know, why did you choose this master's program? What kind of jobs are you looking at once you graduate?
Oh, yeah, sure. As I said before, I chose this master's program. First is because CU Denver has a good reputation and it's very competitive. And also because this program has, a lot of opportunity to listen to these, founders, their stories, learn from them. It's very inspiring. I don't want to just join a class like Professor MP said, like the traditional marketing class. I really like this, combine the academic aspect and with the practical aspect, this kind of thing. Yeah, that's why I chose this program. What kind of jobs are you looking? Actually, now I'm still kind of learning and exploring. I know which direction I like to go to, but I don't have a specific job title. I don't want to limit myself. Yeah. But still, definitely related to my PR experience before, my journalist work experience, and my strengths is also marketing, business, this kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I think it's a two-part question. The second part of the question is, can you tell us about the career services or support offered to you as an international student?
Yeah, in CU Denver, we have a career center. There's some advisors. You can get, recommendation or suggestions from them. You can talk with your plan or maybe some, jobs you want to choose. Yeah, they're very experienced people. Yeah, and also you can talk with your peers. They're also students, maybe in different major or maybe the same major. They can give you their advice from their perspective.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Stella. Okay, Professor Madhavan, I'm going to let you take the next question. Someone says that they have an idea for their own startup. Would they truly benefit from this master's as an international student? Can they stay on in the US to build and scale after graduation?
So I think the answer to the first question is, of course, yes. That's what the program is designed for. That's why that was the whole foundation for the program. Yes, this is the best program, whether you want to start your own business or you want to get a job in a entrepreneurial organization like we mentioned, like Google and Amazon and thousands of other companies like that. The second part of the question, can I stay in the US to build and scale after graduation? So here it becomes a very intricate question. And the answer, of course, is yes. You can stay in the US to build your company. But everyone thinks about H-1B visas. How do you get a visa to stay on with a company? So if you were to do a dual MS in entrepreneurship and information systems, you get to stay anyway for 3 years. And in those 3 years, you should be able to build your company significantly large enough to actually qualify for a visa based on the number of employees that you hire, the turnover revenue of your company. And I don't know all the details about the latest because there was just a revision to the immigration law that made it a little easier for people to actually start businesses, international, students to actually start businesses and then hire employees and contribute to the ecosystem. So at any rate, I mean, you get 3 years to figure out the business and to actually build it. And that should be more than enough time for you to be able to build your business or get a job or scale it to the point where you don't have to worry about anything. So that's an immigration opportunity that nobody talks about, which is being a creator and a founder. And if there's an interest, we can find out a little more about what the latest rules are about that, and then get back to you also.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Brian, maybe you could help us with this question a little bit. Someone says that they've done their bachelor's in business administration. Are they eligible firstly for this program, or do they need to have specific work experience?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you so much. First and foremost, you are eligible, and you'll be coming in with a great baseline of business experience already from your academic side of things. That you should, there's an admissions process that we go through, but from an application standpoint, you are more than eligible for this. To the second part of it, you do not require work experience. As I noted in the application, we do want to see a resume just to see certificates, clubs, extracurriculars, any part-time jobs that you had at this point in time. But we work with a number of students who are coming directly out of their bachelor's degree studies right into the master's degree program. We actually have a program set up here at the university. It's a 4+1 program for CU Denver undergraduates to give them the opportunity to get a bachelor's and then a master's in entrepreneurship in just 5 years. So no, we do not require extensive work experience. And in some cases, and it kind of speaks to the adaptability and the flexibility of the program will work to the student based on what they're bringing to us. So this is not something where you necessarily need to jump right from your studies into it. It is also not something where you need to have 5-10 years of work experience. You can have both. We find that students will come to us when this is right for them to take the next step in their career, to gain additional experience, to be introduced to a larger network. Again, we'll find students who spend 10-15 years in their career and say to themselves, I don't really like the direction I'm going. I need a new network. I need to really get out there to pursue an idea, to adjust my professional mindset. They will come to the program and the program will fit them. Similarly, we'll have a number of students who come to us right from their bachelor's studies, knowing what they want to see. Also, like Stella said, admitting what I want to learn and what I want to do right now may not be what I want to do when this program is over. And so I want to, be able to open myself up to what ultimately I'm going to learn, who I'm going to meet, what is going to ultimately open the best doors for me.
So just to summarize,
wonderful. Thank you so much.
Just to summarize
yes,
a couple of things that Brian said. If you have a bachelor's degree in any discipline, it doesn't have to be business. It could be history, it could be arts, it could be something else. You still are eligible to apply. Brian mentioned if you have work experience, you can waive the GMAT completely. If you have a high enough academic credentials, GPA, then you can waive the GMAT. So it's quite easy. And we welcome people from all disciplines. So.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Brian, someone also wants to know about the scholarship and financial aid opportunities available for Indian students.
Yeah, I would say first and foremost, and we touched on this early in the presentation, but from a tuition standpoint, currently all students are eligible for what is considered in-state tuition here in the United States. Just for additional context, students who are a resident of a state where they attend university there typically pay lower tuition rate than students that go to a different state within the United States. This is exacerbated for international students who have additional fees, who have additional costs. Their tuition tends to be about 3 times higher than a Colorado resident, depending on the program. We have created a flat rate tuition, so all students pay the exact same tuition. So you can think about that right from the outset as a financial aid option, as a scholarship. Literally out the gates for students, we are lowering the cost for all international students to come to the program. Beyond that, though, there are resources that I can provide to any applicants from a financial aid standpoint, from a scholarship standpoint, from an international student standpoint. There are a number of scholarships on a national basis that are available for them to apply to receive funding for their program. I have resources that I can share with students should they move forward with the application process so that they can pursue that. All, just as a very, very specific note, all scholarships and financial aid are distributed for students based on programs that they've been accepted for. So ultimately, if a student is interested in financial aid and scholarships, the best move is to start applications, start that process, and along with applying for a university, be applying for international scholarships as well.
Can I just highlight a really important point that Brian made? If you were to do an MS in entrepreneurship degree at one of our contemporary schools, so University of Texas at Dallas is another big state school like us that offers an MS in entrepreneurship degree, and they're very good, just like we are. We are about equal. They charge $65,000 for the program. And they give a $20,000 scholarship. So it costs students $45,000. We just adopt an extremely low price strategy to begin with, because I don't believe in saying we'll charge you $65,000 and then give you a $30,000 discount, because it's more complicated than just say we'll just give you, a discount up front. So our tuition for an MS in entrepreneurship degree is the lowest of any AACSB accredited school in the United States, as far as my research tells me. It's about $22,000 to $24,000, depending on what options, how many online classes, and so on and so forth. But it's the lowest to begin with, and no other school, even with their scholarships, can match that. And that was very important to us, right up front, to give that discount.
Oh, wonderful! Thank you so much, and actually, really sheds some light on what it really means for financial aid or scholarships to even be present if you're already at a very, very reasonable tuition fee. Because Madhav, and I think a lot of Indian students have this concern. They're wondering, are there a lot of Indians in Denver? And what about on campus?
Oh, yeah. Denver is a tech hub, just like Silicon Valley. And you have, lots and lots of Indian students. You have lots and lots of Indian immigrants in the community. We've got areas, we've got Indian, I shop in Indian grocery stores all the time. And so I've got one right behind my house. And there are like dozens and dozens of Indian grocery stores that, there's a huge number of Indian CEOs as well. In fact, on the Jake Jap Center board, there is a gentleman whose name is Sam Kumar. He's from Karnataka originally. He's the CEO of a cybersecurity company. He's on the board of the Jake Jap Center. And he is committed to actually not only mentor students, but he's also committed to give internships in his company. So students will actually have the pleasure of working for a company led by an Indian CEO. So they're all over the place. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you. If you come here, it's great to have some Indian friends that remind you of home, but don't hang out with only Indians, okay? Hang out with people from all over the world because it's such an enriching experience. And then when you feel lonely and you want the taste of home, you've got South Indian restaurants, you've got North Indian restaurants, you've got my favorite is Madras Cafe. I go there once every 2 weeks, and I get my fix of masala dosa and the South Indian coffee, the filter coffee. So it's you can make it a little India if you want, but I would recommend you make it a wonderful global experience.
Right, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that.
I think just to follow up.
Yes, Brian.
Just to follow up on that really quickly, I think one of the beauties of coming to CU Denver is we are a growing city, and we are a city that is ever diversified, and we are a city that is ever becoming a global city in a lot of cases. And so to MP's point, you have a lot of subcultures, and there are a growing number of immigrant communities here in Colorado, and a growing number of Indians within that community. But you also have exposure to the wide range, aspect of the world. And so similar to what we get if you were to go to Silicon Valley, where you have the tech aspect, but you also have a very diverse population that is living and working there, you're getting that in Denver. And that's something that is happening in real time. And it's very, very exciting to see. So you'll feel at home. So really find yourself in a position where you're open to the larger world.
Great. Thank you so much, Brian, for adding that bit of information for us as well. And it looks like we are out of time. But thank you so much, Professor Madhavan. Thank you so much, Brian. And thank you so much, Stella, for joining us today and really taking us through this entire process. I think all of the students who attended the session would have really, really benefited from hearing from all of you about the different aspects of the program, of course, life at CU Denver as well. And absolutely wonderful speaking to all of you. And I really hope that we do this again sometime soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shireen, for hosting. This has been fantastic, and we're excited to do this again.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you, Shireen. Thank you.
Have a wonderful day ahead.
Same to you, same to all the students who are interested and everyone who's watching.
Wonderful. Bye-bye. Thank you.